Oh, please.
Fred Vogel,
Here.
Jana Barnett, here. Rick Weinhopper,
Here.
Ron Singer will be absent, and Bill James.
Present.
Okay, public comment. Time for public comment. Anybody have any public comment?
No.
We'll move on to number 4. I believe, I wasn't at the last personnel committee meeting, but I believe the deputy fire chief position description was given back to you to tweak.
Had to make some corrections in there.
Okay.
You'll notice in the first part there with the position summary that it specifies that the deputy fire chief will occasionally act in the capacity of the fire chief in their absence. And then moving through the second page, there's some added information there about community risk reduction with researching and developing as well as implementing different policies and procedures to keep our community safe, helping with the inspections, and then developing plans, procedures, and programs to maintain and improve the ISO classification for the borough, as well as origin and cause investigations, some of the fire marshal types of duties there, and then overseeing the complete pre-incident planning program. And then the last correction was made on the final page above the signature section to incorporate being able to perform the duties and responsibilities as indicated with or without reasonable accommodations.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, ayes have it.
Yeah.
Assume that will go to Borough Council for final approval.
That was.
Very good. Thank you.
Very detailed, very well done.
Thank you.
I
My
am,
pleasure.
and thanks, Jennifer. The next item is item 5 regarding Detective Daren Anders. He has submitted a retirement letter effective July 6th.
It now may actually be changing. He sent me an updated one on Friday through the 23rd and or subject to the outcome of this discussion and
Okay.
the agreement.
As you can see on 5B,
23rd, which month?
I'm sorry,
Which month? 23rd, which month?
this month.
July.
I'm sorry, July. I'm thinking we're already in July.
Feels like it outside.
Maybe August.
so 5B is to review and discuss contract agreement to allow him to stay on post-retirement for things he's involved in and probably couldn't be replaced easily. Is that true, Jen?
Yes, we have a homicide specifically that is scheduled towards the end of this year. There is a possibility of a plea being taken, but we don't know that yet.
Right.
But it would take somebody months to go through the voluminous material that Detective Anders has, and his knowledge of is quite unique, and will be very difficult for somebody to step in and take over and successfully be able to prosecute that. So that's why this is unique. And we're lucky we don't have homicides all the time. It's just,
That's good.
We got
That's
some,
generally a good thing.
yes, that's
Well,
why
the right
it's,
person, I don't know.
it's unique and.
Cases could be murder, I know that. Jesus.
It's like a dad joke.
2 days in a row?
Has no bearing on the pension that he would be accrued. And then I have absolutely no problem with this, but I'd have to see the details of it. Would Labor Council prepare that?
Labor Council did prepare this.
We have a draft agreement.
Did you review it?
I did, and, it's very simple putting it together. Janet also looked at it and made some suggestions to, I think, tighten up the language. I don't know if Janice's suggestions shared with the chief? I was curious.
We talked about that this morning, and what I shared with Jenna last evening was that in having the conversation with Lieutenant Bauer, Chief Phillips, and Detective Anders, we had agreed to a flat per diem rate without including mileage reimbursement, hotel
Yeah, that's
meals,
right.
all of those things because of tracking and everything else. It sounded like there was initially a potential for him to have to travel out of state for another case that may or may not happen. So, you know, in some cases, he would be spending probably a 13 or 14 hour day versus if it's a local case, it would not be as much of a time commitment. But the idea being no one really wanted to have to track his hours or, you know, submit for those expenses. So he was willing to take the flat rate, all inclusive of mileage, tolls, meals, hotel, anything that would go into representing the borough or testifying on the borough's behalf in a case. I do think you had some other good additions though, in terms of,
I mean, a flat rate, if you're going to New York, $500 is not gonna cover your hotel and one meal. So I think we want to give the detective an incentive to help us. And if I'm him and I tally up what it's gonna cost me to go to New York, I'm gonna say it's just not worth it. So it seems to me we ought to reimburse him for expenses and per diem unless we have a separate schedule for New York City. It's not fair to him. But also, before, the concept was $500 a day, and my question was, well, what's a day? If he spends 1 hour and a couple of days reviewing a file, and, you know, we all might do that. Is that 3 different days? So I would suggest a flat rate for just reviewing your file, unless there's something extraordinary like the one you just described, and maybe the price ought to be different. But it's easier just to say a flat rate for reviewing the file per day, because then we don't have to worry what does the day mean. But I just think we need more details about.
Are one of these
Who
cases
invoiced-
in New York,
The
potentially?
missing juvenile.
Oh, yeah, I
That
know.
was up in the,
Yeah.
New York filed charges for some things up there, as I understand. I'm not gonna profess to know all the details of those, but I know, was looking at charges from things that happened up in New York, so based on what Daren did down here with a lot of the search warrants and things that were done to help ultimately locate the juvenile, that's what he may potentially be.
Has New York started that, to get into the city, you gotta give your next unborn?
No,
Has that started yet?
The governor put the
Oh,
kibosh
he-
on
oh,
that.
did he?
She didn't have the political
She-
nerve to do it, is what it came down to.
Well, I would suggest,
Well, that was an hour, sorry, Chris, but that would be an hourly? So what you're suggesting, Jan?
No, I'm suggesting a flat fee for reviewing a file, a flat fee per day for testifying and traveling to testify. Hopefully most of them will
That
be
gets-
downtown Reading, but.
I think that's more confusing than what we have.
So you know, if he sits there and doesn't get called, we're still paying him,
We should.
you know, per that many hours versus he is acting in the capacity of a consultant,
We should pay.
okay? And we are paying him part of that fee of the $500 per day.
I'm missing something.
Is it a both? Is it an hourly rate and $500?
No,
It's an
I'm
or,
not
correct?
suggesting an hourly rate.
Right,
I'm
so you're
suggesting-
But that's the problem. If you don't do a per diem, and you have this guy working 2 hours, you don't wanna pay him $500.
I think
You gotta
that's,
pay him the 2 hours.
I think that's,
Which is-
I think that's
that's
the
my
point.
point.
She just, if he's there working 1 hour for the day, he's gonna get $500. If he's sitting in a courtroom for 13
Yeah, I
hours, he's gonna
understand.
get $500.
Well, if he reviews a file, he's gonna get $500. Not, if he reviews the file 1 hour a day for 3 days, he's not getting 1,500. He's getting 500 to review the file. So we don't care how many hours he spent. Over time, it should work out. There are probably gonna be some files which are thinner or thicker than others, and I think we all understand over time. He should think it's fair, you should think it's fair.
Would it be a burden on him to keep his time records? You believe? It's not something they normally do.
I don't know.
And that's why I think
I mean, there are things
Easier
I
for
can,
him
do.
to say,
I can keep
"Let
him
me file."
live in our RMS system. All officers, including myself, do log sheets for the day. Detectives are on, they're basically, it's a one-line thing, follow-up, because that's what they do all day, is follow-ups. Yeah, it's something I could ask him to have to submit, you know, come in and still be able to log in. I don't have to, I can still have him have that access.
Is it primarily just these two cases that he would potentially be called back on, or
Those are
is?
the two big ones.
Okay. But there would be potential for
Yeah, he's not been the lead for a little while now. He's been assisting other detectives on things, but this, because of the involvement of this juvenile, the types of search warrants, and the amount of search warrants that were done, he's by far our best officer that does that. So he took that on as the lead, but this homicide now has been going on for a couple of years, so.
I just always get into, oh, okay.
It's a lot
I
cheaper.
reviewed this for court tomorrow, so that's an hour, you know.
You would have to have some you have to have a minimum of an hour.
Exactly, yeah.
They get a minimum of 3 or 4 hours to go to a DJ hearing.
Three hours.
Three.
Yeah, I presume you charge folks who use the gaming officers, second verse does.
So can we add a fee for reviewing the case plus the 500 total?
But it could
I think
just be
what I hear is you're saying it might be, if he takes 3 days to review the case, that's $500 total. It's not $500 day 1, day 2, day 3 for $1,500. You want it to be, time to review will be $500. Time for attending the actual trials, should they occur, or meetings with the district attorney, would be $500 this day for that.
Is he doing all his work in the house, or does he do some at his home? Does he have a
I
file?
will not, once he's not, well, that stuff never leaves the office, paper, unless it's going to court. So today, they don't take things home and work on them, because that's all sensitive and criminal history stuff, and family can't see that, and, you know, all that. So he would have to, he could go into our interview room and review things, and things like that.
I was just trying to make it easier to make the calculation and to understand what a day meant.
Well, yeah, I think that's a valid point, but then what's the correct substitute? If you're doing it by case now, it sounds like he would be compensated.
It could be by the hour, I don't care, I just didn't know, I didn't know what a day meant, was one question.
Now, what's an hourly rate that would work there?
And
50, 60, 70?
As of now, at full salary, he's at 40, so he's at 60-something an hour at overtime. So I would say it's gonna at least be $65 to $70 an hour. Our contract negotiations now this year.
70,
I don't know what it's gonna be.
He keeps a log that can be verified for payroll purposes.
so you want me to change this paragraph, be that a rate of pay shall be whatever amount you approve, hourly rate, and he'll be required to keep a daily log of any time spent.
Yes, so that we can have some justification for the payment. $70 an hour going once.
No, because he has to pay the whole FICA. So you've gotta up it from his normal hourly rate, so I would say 80. Cause you know, that's 7.56 or
Yes,
something like
Yeah,
that.
that is true.
Yeah,
He's gonna
so
be paid his own.
instead of rotating.
Why wouldn't he be treated as an employee?
Subcontractor is officially retired, otherwise it's.
Well, it's independent contractor.
Yep.
Yeah. So 80.
Right.
And
I have no problem with it.
we're gonna change the reimbursement language then, if he's paid hourly, I would suggest that we reimburse him.
Absolutely. I have no problem with it.
So I can leave in this language.
Yeah, the in addition language.
I'll
So
change
what
this.
is the last thing when it says for him to testify first thing?
Like we're having control.
Oh, like an 8 AM Like if you would mean he's scheduled to be in court at 8 a.m.
When the judge decides to call him is when he's gonna be called.
That's it.
You know, you know, that's.
It's just then to testify, I don't know what first thing even means.
Yeah,
What do you think, Chris?
I would just reimburse him for out-of-pocket expenses.
At the rate of $18 an hour.
Chris, I'll revise, cause I have this in Word. I'll revise this and send it to you.
The other thing I wanted to just tweak.
Send it out to the committee.
With some procedural guidelines that Jana was suggesting, she referred to he a number of times. I would just like that to be the chief, because I think, just for clarity, because I don't want there to be any confusion about who he is.
We just define him at the beginning as detective.
Well, no, see, in these procedures for approval of invoices,
If the chief, like here, if
If-
the
if
chief
he
believes that
believes
additional
the invoice should
documentation.
be paid as
Or
submitted,
the
that
detective
means,
in another.
Oh, or if the chief believes.
yeah, that's the chief,
I
not
agree with
Anders.
you, don't use it.
Right.
Is gender neutral.
These are very specific people.
Chief, we check the timeframes and make sure they're reasonable.
But
You know,
Like I said,
If it could
anything he's
be-
gonna review, he's gonna have to review at the office, so I'm gonna know that he's there. I'm not gonna allow that stuff to go out.
You red line or black line or whatever, line it. So, don't have to read the thing.
Track changes, yes.
My line,
Yeah, I think it makes more sense to do, I was concerned about having a case review fixed fee, because I think some of these files are gonna be voluminous and they're gonna be time consuming.
And they're different,
and we want him to do it,
yeah.
so. Great. So, but I think we're table.
Do you have-
Subject to, you can make it subject to
Yeah, I
the
think we would
discussion.
approve it subject
Yeah.
to the comments and satisfactory language to the solicitor.
For budget purposes, do we have any ballpark idea about how much time this is gonna involve? I'm thinking we ought to have something in mind for financial planning.
Well, if the homicide goes to trial, I'm gonna say if again, because I know there's talk of a plea happening. But for him to review all of that, I mean, he could do a week's time, a full day each day to review that. And then you're looking at least a week's worth of a trial, at least. So, I mean, that's 80 hours right there. So,
$10,000.
That's cheap for all that work,
yeah,
and not having somebody else do it.
Right.
What do you think of Catherine?
I don't think it would be a good idea to cap. I've thought about that, but I'm concerned that, I don't want Anders to feel like he has to shape his effort to fit a budget.
Right. I don't think that's right. But
Well, I thought you were just talking about
finance,
corporate finance.
for finance, I don't know, this is on budget.
Or technically, we were just talking, Steve didn't realize that finance was moved to the 3rd at 8 a.m. So Melissa has yet to send an email out, but we're gonna have to move it to 12 because Steve can't attend. So what we were also talking about is, as of now, there's nothing else on the agenda besides the cash update that Phyllis could give by email if we had to cancel it, which Steve wasn't opposed to. So I mean, the other option is if we end up canceling finance, I could do it under my manager's report, but that's not giving everyone an opportunity to really discuss it.
Well, we're not gonna say no because of the cost. We're not, 'cause it's gonna cost you one way or the other. You're gonna pay overtime, you're gonna. So I agree in theory, finance should know, but
Yeah, just an informal ballpark. You have 80 hours, maybe you just double, make it 100, figure 160 hours.
15,000.
12,
15,000.
15,000, yeah.
Just so they know.
Yeah.
I don't think any formal action needs to be taken.
No.
I can have Phyllis add that as a, not anomaly, what is the word that she uses? On her monthly report of,
Not accepted.
yes, thank you, thank you.
Now, is that gonna go under police department budget or just,
No, go into police department,
Yeah.
sorry, John.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve the contract, subject to the items that were discussed today and final tweaking by the solicitor.
so moved?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, ayes have it.
No, I don't think we accepted the retirement letter
Correct.
yet. And I
Oh,
was
we
curious
should, separate
why
motion.
the retirement letter date would be affected by this agreement.
I think he's thinking that if it would not be accepted, that because of all the time it's gonna take, he would postpone his retirement, which is why he wrote the letter the way he did. So that he would stay on and be paid his normal wages as he's doing all of this work.
And increases pension payment.
In our motion, do we need to approve the effective date? Or just approve, can we just say approve retirement since that seems to be
We've
always
always,
an object?
We need an effective date.
Yeah, I'd like to have.
But he's
We all-
changed it.
which I have the updated letter, and I think you can change the
Now,
motion.
which one is it, the 6th or the 23rd?
23rd.
Third.
Okay. Oh.
But we need an effective date for pension calculations, which is why we've always required an employee to submit a letter with their actual date.
Oh, I understand what the employee has to, I don't know, the question was whether the motion had to.
We've
So-
always referenced a date, so.
Well, then, by implication, does the independent contract begin immediately thereafter?
That's up to John, who wants to give him the work.
I mean, he was in the drop program, wasn't he?
No.
He wasn't, okay, so he really can pick his own. He doesn't have a fixed expiration.
So
Now, the date that he was going was the date that he actually could retire, as his time and age.
if council approves the contract of the July meeting, what date would he want?
What day would he, I'm sorry?
Would he want the sixth?
It would be after the 6th, so it wouldn't matter. Council's July 9th.
Could be the 24th.
Right, but what retirement date would he want?
His last day would be the 23rd.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve his retirement letter effective July 23rd.
So moved.
So a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, ayes have it, sorry, I went out of order there, Melissa. And then, still in my head, the contract agreement has to begin at least after the 23rd or first business day following the 23rd. 6 is executive session, do we have any matters to discuss?
Do not.
Very well. No sense sitting around here looking at each other. We have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
24 minutes, very good.
Committee adjourned.